coming through when the growth look good on you. Best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep fitting in love.
What's going on, people? You already know what time it is. You know what it is. It's G, and we're back in the building. My apologies for last night. Had an emergency, so I could not do the stream. But I said, you know what? We're doing the stream anyway. We have to do it, man. You know, it's a topic that, you know, I think a lot of people have been speaking about. You know, as I was telling both my two guests here today, K-Mac and Quasi, thank you both for joining in this evening. As I was telling them, look, I think there's this big discussion, you know, around Liverpool defensive midfielders. What type of defensive midfielders do Liverpool need? And, you know, all of these kind of, you know, different kind of things. So big up anybody who's in the chat. Big up everybody who's watching this on the replay. Just big up everyone in a general sense. Again, just like to say thank you to everybody who has helped me reach that 500 mark. We are close, actually, really, to hitting that 600 mark. So please, guys, if you could, if you are not subscribed to the damn channel, please just hit that subscribe button. I don't know where it is on your screen, but, you know, it's there somewhere. It's there somewhere. But I'd like to big up my two guests, K-Mac, Quasi. How are you guys doing this evening, man?
Thank you so very much for having me today.
Nah, don't be silly, bro.
I'm good. I'm good. Good to see we're linked with Mbappe and we've made a bid.
Yes.
I feel like that's quite imminent. I feel like, you know, that's a deal that, you know, will probably get done, you know, very, very soon. You know, if I'm being
it's very close, very close, people, very close.
But like, so obviously, and big up, by the way, Ensman. Big up Jay Kismet as well in the damn building, and big up Alexander. Yeah, I mean, like, big up to you, man. Big up you guys, obviously, as I said, rocking with me this evening. So, as you guys can obviously see, you saw with the title, we're here to talk about defensive midfielders. Now, currently, obviously, our defensive midfielder at this current moment in time that we would all agree is this guy, Fabinho, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had to get this picture because I felt like it depicted his season, you know, from the season just gone. We've been linked with so many, not even just defensive midfielders, but just midfielders in a general sense. I'm talking about, as of recent, we've been linked obviously with Lavia. We've been linked with Ryan Gravenberch. You know, we've had a little link, you know, with a Paulinho, and I know quite a few people, you know, do like Paulinho as well. I know K-Mac, you know, you've spoken again about Tyler Adams, you know, potentially coming. We do like the look, you know, of a Caicedo. You know, he's a very, very good player. I remember after the World Cup, this guy, you know, he was in absolute demand. And I know that Liverpool have had like a sneaky little, let me not say interest, but we like Yusuf Fofana, who obviously plays for Monaco. But again, so many, I could have really, I actually looked online. I actually typed in Liverpool midfielders linked with Liverpool. Do you know how many names actually came up? Like how many players that have actually been linked with Liverpool? And this was as of the 29th of April. 64 midfielders around Europe have been linked with Liverpool. And that was as recent as the 29th of March. So that kind of tells you, you know, where we're at in terms of, you know, oh, and again, I'm forgetting. Alan Vera, big up Paul Smith, man. Big up Paul Smith. Alan Varela, you know, again.
He was the only one we weren't linked with.
Sorry?
I think he was the only one we weren't linked with.
Yeah, and this is it. And again, and this is, and big up Ravi in the building. This is where I'm looking at everything and I'm thinking to myself, like, and I sat down and I was like, you know, I really want to do a video, man. Like, I have to like have this discussion with people. What type of midfielder do we forget what we want? Because what I want is Kylian Mbappe. What do we actually need? And what is actually realistic? Hey, man, chat to the people, man. Like, in your eyes, like, what are you kind of looking for, you know, in terms of moving into the next season with what we've got, you know, currently?
I think the interesting thing about it is the formation. So if you look at previous, which is obviously the three in midfield, then we're going to need someone who basically is like the lighthouse, Fabinho. and he's going to be that guy that breaks things up and covers for the back and gets his foot in and, wins headers. He's really a duel winner. And then obviously puts the ball forward, but not necessarily like a creative forward, but just passes it on to someone else who can then create. Is that the type of play that we need next season? I don't think so. I don't think that's the type of play we need next season. We're looking at all of these DMs who are basically destroyers and have got legs and are just going to run around the pitch and are basically just going to close people down and not do what Fabinho does, really. So if you are looking at the likes of your Tyler Adams, you're looking at your Amrabats, those kind of guys, I don't see them just as a Fabinho. However, if you're then throwing Trent into a double pivot with a guy that is going to have to cover for Trent, because Trent isn't going to be so defensive minded because he just isn't. Never has, never will be. And we've got two really creative midfielders in front of him. What does that midfielder need to be? Does he need to be a DM, or does he just need to be a midfielder who is good at winning duels and being able to pass the ball on? Doesn't have to be a destroyer. I feel like the midfield is kind of evolving at Liverpool. It's kind of moving to a different phase where it's not so much you've just got loads of dog bodies that are just going to run around and tackle people, and there's not going to be any goals, not going to be any assists, not going to be any creativity in there. So it's, what is that midfielder? Like, I can give you some names, but I'd like to hear what Quasi says as well, to be fair.
To be quiet, man. What are you telling me? Oh, no, he's gone. Having some connection issues. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I was having a little, somebody's trying to call in.
No, my apologies. Yeah, chat to people, man. What do you think?
I can carry on if you want. Do you want me to carry on while you take that call? Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm good, yeah.
Okay.
So I like the destroyer part. We need somebody who's solid. But Klopp tends to get somebody who can pass, who can basically also has an offensive threat. Because sometimes if you look at Fabinho, he's almost on par with the strikers. He end up right behind the box. So I think we need somebody who can move very well, who's to me, I think we need a very solid defensive midfield, old school defensive midfielder. Somebody who could actually move across more so than going forward. Because the problem is not going forward. You got way too much attackers, right? So if we get somebody who could pass, who's solid defensively, the attackers will take care of themselves. Because you got, now, let's just say we're using McAllister and Dom. These two guys can move very well. They could all drop defensively, get the ball, and drive it forward. So trying to get another Fabinho does not make too much sense to me. That's why I'm very, very, Caicedo is the guy that I like, because he gives me that, what's his name? Kante vibe. He has legs, he could run for days. So, and especially if we're going to be playing that attacking, that Gengar pressing style, we're going to get hit with counterattacks, because now people have figured Klopp out. He's been in the league for 7 years. People are figuring him out. So if we're going to be pressing, people are going to know that these certain areas are going to be weak. It doesn't matter who you bring. So we would need somebody who is solid. People want us to play the back three, right? So if we bring somebody who's defensive, then the two center backs can step alongside him. And then they could cover the three. Now you have Trent and Robo to bomb forward.
No, honestly, look, I feel you, and I think it does come back to, it just depends on, you said it there, the formation that Liverpool may or may not play next season. And again, there's this big debate, with Liverpool next season in terms of, I was just on the football terrace, just like a minute ago, and we're talking about Levi Colwill. Obviously, that's for the left centre back position. But in regards to the way that the team, whether or not we'd sign him and blah blah blah. But that was then in regards to whether or not Liverpool are going to play with that back three. And again, this playing with the back three or whatever people want to call it, Trent inverted, Liverpool back three, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is, it's going to play a major part, I think, in the rest of our summer business. Because also you got to think about, do Liverpool want to be looking at a potential right back? Are we looking at, do we even want the DM? And that was also my thing is, you look at Liverpool, right? And you think to yourself, okay, they've got Fabinho, we've got Thiago, we've got Bajcetic. I won't count Tyler Morton, but he's there, but I won't count him. So you've got 3 players already in there. Now, unless obviously Thiago leaves, which I feel that Klopp doesn't want him to. So I feel like he may potentially stay here. So cool. Thiago stays here. Fabinho's obviously going to stay here. Unless a really massive bid comes in that they see. And Bajcetic is there. They all are quite different in what they actually do. You've got one who's probably more of a destroyer in a Fabinho, so to speak. Then you've got Thiago, who's like the silky one, more of a deep line playmaker. Bajcetic is kind of in the middle. He's like the one in the middle where he could do the deep line thing, but he can, as we've seen, he can put himself about a little bit. You get what I mean? So when I'm then thinking about the type of midfielder Liverpool need, and then I'm looking at the type of midfielders that we are linked with, we seem to be linked with a lot of, you mentioned there, Kwasi, about having a destroyer, because that's something that you'd want to see. And I kind of agree with you there. But then we're linked with a Lavia. We're linked with a Gravenberch. We're linked with a Kone. None of those guys are destroyers at all. I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm not saying that they can't do it. Yeah, they're just progressive individuals in that position.
Even
Thuram. Exactly. Did you know what I mean? Players who like to get the ball and they can get the ball moving forward and get the team moving forward. Now, I'm not saying that's a problem. I'm not saying that you can't have those type of midfielders in, but what is it what do we want and what are we looking for? Again, Ugarte was another name that, a lot of Liverpool fans who I know haven't seen him, they were like, yeah, we want Ugarte because he's a destroyer in there. But he's a destroyer then. But clearly Klopp's not looking for a destroyer. So where are we moving to? K-Mac, chat with me, man. Like, where are we moving to into like next season?
So the Ugarte thing is interesting. I mean, my own opinion on him, he's a red card waiting to happen in any game.
Yeah,
Ugarte,
yeah.
like he is very, very out of control a lot. If you watch him,
he seems like it.
And the Ugarte thing, Klopp really wanted him. He wanted him that much that he tapped him up, and Sporting reported us to the FA for breaching tapping up rules. So Sporting won't do any business with us now. So the Inacio thing, if anyone thinks that's going to happen, Klopp's done it again.
Yeah, and this is it.
The interesting thing about Lavia as well is if you actually look at Lavia's stats, he's not actually that good at winning the ball, which is an interesting one. And he's only played 36 games, top flight football, and he lost 22 games in 36. Like, he had some really shockers. Like, I've got to be honest, they got beat by some really bad teams as well, including like a second division team in the FA Cup when he played last season. So, he's not really a great stats person to look at. Destroyers. He looked at Amrabat, and Amrabat is that type of guy. Let's be honest, he's that type of guy. He's an absolute monster in midfield. He's got probably 300 games under his belt, loads of international caps, played in a couple of different countries as well. An interesting one which people don't know, he used to play for Ten Hag, by the way. So
who's that?
Him going to Man United is pretty odds on. He used to play for him.
For who?
So Amrabat used to play for Ten Hag. Ten Hag was a manager for him.
What team is that? Oh, okay.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I think he was a manager in Holland, like another team in Holland.
Okay.
So the likes of Kone hasn't got much awareness in following a ball, like his actual ball. He's great at getting the ball and going, okay, and getting past players and making things happen, like giving it to someone else higher up the pitch. So, like from the 20 to 40 yard area, him and Thuram are just amazing at picking a ball up and then getting the ball forward. But they're not so good at tracking runners, tackling, as in like, I mean, obviously Kone's not that good at tackling because he's now injured again.
Yeah, exactly.
And Thuram was kind of slated by the French, a lot of the French fans, because he was quite culpable for a lot of things that went wrong with the Ukraine game, which doesn't help. I mean, the likes of players that I'd be interested in, and I know a lot of people aren't going to like it, but Onana at Everton is perfect for that role.
Very good player. I like Onana.
He doesn't do anything else apart from win the ball and pass it, and he is an absolute monster at winning the ball. Like he's like watching him for Everton, like he got played in a position where he was stuck in two minds whether he was going to be more creative because they didn't do anything. So he felt it was like his way to just go, you know what, we're not actually doing anything in this game. I'll go forward a bit more. And he actually became quite creative because he did that. But that's not his job. His job is just to sit there and just clean up. Like just watch the back, watch the midfield. And he does that great. And he's better than Lavia, and he's years ahead of Lavia. And he's probably going to be cheaper than Lavia. And he wouldn't really be an issue because he lives in the same town. So, you know, you're not relocating him. You know, he's probably going to stay in the same house. So for me, he's the type of player I'd like. I also think we should probably have a look at Dewsbury Hall. Like Dewsbury Hall is also
Do you like Dewsbury
player. I like Dewsbury Hall. I think he's a really good player. Like, you know, no nonsense. He's not a creative player. He's not a Maddison. That's why they had Maddison in there.
Yeah. Cool.
He just win the ball, pass it on, you know, and maybe get a little bit further forward sometimes. But if that's not needed, then he won't do that. He's at a good age. He's got loads of games under his belt. He's loads of Premier League experience. He's obviously gone down, so he might have some kind of relegation release clause, who knows, but that's another player. So, I mean, that's just two I just picked out. So, you know, and two that we're not linked with.
Yeah. Quasi. I'm again, and I see people throwing out names, you know, people talking about Florentino Luis, plays for Benfica. Obviously, someone mentioned Tchouameni, how we're not going to get him. I agree. That's way out of our kind of budget. But again, you know, you're talking about, you know, you spoke about having these destroyers in that team. So let's just say, obviously, again, Manu Kone got himself injured. Kefren Thuram didn't really have a good under 21, even though I'm not really bothered about how good or bad your under 21s is, because if you're good enough, if they wanted you, I don't think the under 21s would have made any difference, you know, to that anyway. But again, being linked with all of these different types of players, how do you see us then moving next season then? Because if we're linked with these type of players, but you yourself, and I agree with you as well, we're looking at the team and we're saying we need that kind of destroyer next to a Trent, because then I feel it will allow Trent to do whatever it is that he wants to do, you know, within that midfield. But Klopp's doesn't seem like he wants to go down that route. So what, bro, just talk to me. What are we doing?
And that's what I'm saying, because even the list that you mentioned for our players, they're all identical. The Secek, Fab, even Hendo, they have the same ideology on how they want to play that defensive role. And I believe that it's time that if Klopp wants Trent to be, you know, like if show more of Trent's strength, he needs somebody who's just going to sit and don't worry about what's going on up front. Their job is to worry about the people behind him. You know, so like is it Onana from Everton?
Yeah.
That guy would be perfect, because you know what? He doesn't worry about what you guys doing over there. He's just running laterally, plugging the holes. Wherever he sees a hole, that's where he stops. When he gets the ball, he passes. And then if he's under pressure, he just runs with the ball. And he got long legs. You see? And I'm not saying because long legs makes him a great player, but I'm just saying he can cover a lot of space with his running. So I think this time the Klopp may want to find somebody else that is not identical to Fab, because Fab at his best is one of the best. He could go forward, he could hold, he can pass. So right now, I think we need somebody who can pass and who can hold. Because if you have all these attackers in front of you, you don't need the defensive mid running all the way forward. And when we get hit on the counter, he's running back, which is very, very frustrating. So, we all talk about rotation. So if we need another Fabinho type, then you bring Fabinho, you sub the destroyer out. Because I think, we can't keep getting the same identical players that do this. They all do the same thing. Bersertic, personally, I think is an 8. Because when he's playing that DM, he makes a lot of mistakes. Either he's over dribbling, or he's going to ground and he get caught up. You see what I mean? So I think that, and right now I have learned, whoever we are linked with is a smoke screen.
Yeah. I think someone mentioned that earlier.
I saw you on the terrace, and you're right. Don't sleep on the Caicedo, Liverpool out of Caicedo situation.
Bro, people were like,
don't sleep.
I'm like, yo.
Don't sleep. People think that don't sleep. Liverpool got money. Don't be doing this. Liverpool don't have money, because that's how we operate. If you've been to an open market and you show up to buying let's say a hat, the first thing they'll code you is like, I want 500. You start walking away, they say, okay, come on, give me 300. You'll be like, I got 50. And they will take the money. That's how Liverpool operate. Liverpool got money. They spent 60 million without blinking.
Hey, if anything,
that's really interesting, because
that's what I'm saying.
That's a plug and play. That is literally a plug and play. If we got Caicedo, that's a plug and play. Like, they've literally,
it'll be just perfect.
Him and McAllister go straight in.
Oh my God!
They make us challenge, no doubt. They make us challenge.
So that's what I'm saying. Don't sleep on the Caicedo. Liverpool. We always, and the fans are bought into it, which is good. That we don't have money. Yeah, our owners, how they operate.
Caicedo can play right back as well, by the way. I just thought.
Bro, I'm telling you, don't sleep on that. I was listening to G talking. I'm like, and some of the rival fans are like, nah, you don't have money. I'm like, keep sleeping. We didn't know Gakpo was coming, and when we wanted him, we just went there and gave him a check, and then he came with us. Same thing with Dom. Everybody was like, Liverpool don't have money. Who we gonna sell? We're like,
I've got some crazy numbers for money, by the way, G. If you want to hear this,
okay? Chat to me. Before you actually get into that, I just want to hear just quickly from 12, and then we'll literally get into it, just because he's just joined in. Again, big up for coming in this evening. So obviously, we're talking about defensive midfielders and stuff like that. Obviously, we've been linked with Lavia, Gravenberch, Manu Kone, to Amrabat back in January. All of these players, you already know.
Right.
For yourself, what type of a defensive midfielder do you think the team actually needs? Or do you think that the kind of players that we've been linked with, obviously it's just links, do you think that those are the type of players that we need moving forward?
I would say, as far as I'm getting a little feedback. Are you hearing the feedback or no?
Not anymore. You turned it down. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, I'm sure I turned it down. But what I was going to say is, I really feel as though our defensive midfield, or what we have as a defensive midfield, often when we come to these midfielders, we're somewhat forgetting the fact that we do have some players like Stefan Bajcetic, and players that can or do have promise that are going to be able to possibly fill those roles. I know a lot of people were talking about, I'm not saying Curtis Jones is going to be a defensive midfielder, but you have a player like Curtis Jones that really started to step it up towards the end of the season. And now, like, when I see a lot of these lineups with people putting in these new names or people that we're linked with, it seems like a lot of these new names and new people are complete midfield. It's like everyone has these starting midfields where not one player from our former squad or from our squad last year is a part of these midfields, which is very interesting to me. So I think everyone has a role. Everyone's going to be able to play, but I also think that the most important thing about when it comes to the midfield is getting a player that's going to obviously check all the boxes for those analytical boxes that we do with when we bring in these players so that they actually fit with the squad. And also having a player that gets to adjust and adapt to the system. And that's the biggest question mark I have as to, you could bring in some great players, but I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to constitute to be able to play in that system or play in the role that they might have to adjust or adapt to, and that's the biggest question mark I have when it comes to what midfielders we're going to have. But I'm optimistic, and I'm very pleasantly surprised at the acquisitions that we've made. And if anything, to go on Kwasi's point is that Liverpool rarely do any of us, and I mean any of us, like the pundits, the content creators, the fans, the people on Twitter, blah, 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 blah. Rarely ever do we find someone that we say, oh, this player is someone we're going to end up getting it. And that's what happens. Because if anything we've learned, even the journalists too, as well, even the journalists that get the leaks, like they tend to not know what Liverpool holds close to their chest, which is the acquisitions that they normally get. So.
No, bro. And everything you said, to be honest, I agree with it. I agree. I think, excuse me, I think we are in that kind of state. And Kwasi mentioned it before. Even the Liverpool fans, we know now. Do you know what I mean? We kind of just know how the club rolls. We know how things are in terms of you wake up one morning and all of a sudden you're like, hold on. And just one thing, even on that, when people say that, like, and stuff like that, oh, you know what? Like, for example, Zobus, like that's probably the best example because it just happened. People act like, oh my goodness, this came out of the blue. I mean, it came out of the blue for us, obviously as fans, because we don't know the ins and outs. But Liverpool probably been doing that deal for the last 2-3 weeks. Obviously, we don't know. Even longer, 100%. And obviously, because we're a club who, I don't know how we do it. I don't know where it came from. Like, I don't understand how it always seems like only Liverpool, in terms of Premier League, I don't know outside of it, but in the Premier League, it just seems to be only Liverpool can get business done and nobody knows about it. Like, how do we always seem to, Nunes is probably the only one, like, in recent history where it was, we started off and you could kind of see, and then it was a bit long in terms of it played out in the actual media, and then we finally got him. Obviously, Manchester United wanted him, blah, blah, blah. But most of the other signings, they're kind of signings, as you mentioned, that are just bang all of a sudden. But of course, deals that they've been working on for ages. Do you get what I mean? Like, it's not like it just happened. It just happened in the media, of course. Right. But for them, it's obviously happened for a long time. But even just moving back to like the defensive midfielder side, again, this is I guess this is how I kind of look at it, and this is where I agreed with Kwasi in terms of how I look at the team and everything like that. I just feel that we need a certain profile. Again, that's just my own opinion, of course. My opinion is my opinion. Obviously, Klopp's clearly got a difference of opinion in terms of the type of midfielders that he's looking at. So then I'm also then thinking, how is the team even going to not realistically, but how is the team going to function next season with the type of profiles of players that you're looking for? Because you're also looking at players like, listen, and I'm all for, I love potential. I play a lot of Football Manager. So I'm all about, I only sign players who are between the ages of like 18 and like 22. I don't even sign guys.
Same here. I know exactly what
like,
you mean.
I don't ever do it. Like, wonder kids. No, they don't even have to be wonder kids. Like, I'll just turn them into one, like a 6 player later on. You could be a 3-star and somehow I've gotten you up into a 4-star. Like, it will just happen over time. Right. So I'm all for that. But obviously, I understand this is the real world. In the real world, you kind of can't just do that. You do also need to mix and blend it. Now, I just feel that when we're talking about the mix and blend, in certain positions, I always feel you can have players of certain ages. It not to say it doesn't matter. Of course it matters. But for example, you wouldn't go out and sign, and I don't know any, you wouldn't sign an 18-year-old centre-back, no matter how good he is, because you're in your, like, to be at the heart of your team for a team who's trying to challenge for titles in the Premier League, because you'd look at it and think, he's a little bit too inexperienced, blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. And that's the same thing that I look at with, like, defensive midfield. Really the spine of the team, bar striker, unless you're like, and that striker has to be Mbappe levels anyway. So when we're talking about these positions and we're looking at a Lavia, who's 19, I think, 19 years of age. You're looking at a Gravenberch, who's 20 years of age. You're looking at Manu Kone, I think he's 21, 22, I can't remember. You're looking at a Kefren Turan, 22. So you're looking at all of these. You're looking at all of these young players who are quite inexperienced in the game. They're good players with a high potential, but they're quite inexperienced. To then come into a team like Liverpool, when we're talking about, and again, when I was on the Football Terrace and they were talking about, a lot of Arsenal doing their business and, having a big squad and stuff like that and blah, 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 all these kind of different things. When you're a club who's trying to get back, who was there, but then obviously had a bad season and now you're just trying to get yourself back up to that position. If you start filling it in with kids, I just look at it and think, if you do that, is it not going to slow the pace down? I'm not saying you're not going to get there, because you probably would get there, but will it not slow the pace down? Is it not better to kind of, as I mentioned, mix and match? So if you are going to sign a 22-year-old Dominic Szoboszlai, do you not want to go out and try and find a better DM? Are there any better DMs out there? Like, chat to me, please, man. Chat to me.
I want to just, and I'll let the other panelists go after this, but I just want to say couple of quick things, because you asked about the defensive midfield. One thing I see about this defensive midfield is also the fact that, look, I get people think Fab is done, that he's, washed and he's a shell of his former self, blah, 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 all these different takes on Fabinho. And I have been really doing more of a deeper dive into some of the statistics, but more so looking at tactic-wise when it comes to our defensive midfield. And you've got to realize that, one, our defensive midfielder is now playing a different role, per se, than he normally did in the earlier variations of this system. Okay, so you have Fab basically playing different roles and playing different positions and having to cover different places and spaces. That alone is going to create a different role for him as well. And I think that some people don't really conceptualize it as in like, oh, he's not necessarily washed. It's more so he just hasn't fully adjusted to the role that is now in front of him. Because sometimes you could be a good, if not great player, but you just don't fit a mold, or you just don't fit that role that you need to go by. And to answer your other question real quick, is that you said something about Wonder Kids, which again, I'm with you on the FM 23. Like, I'm all Wonder Kids all day. But
if you're 24, I feel like you're too old. I'm like 92.
Right, exactly, right. So one thing, and plus the contracts are a lot easier. But still, you know what? When it comes to dealing with these players, I put something in our group chat a while back, shared it, and basically what it was is that it broke down the Liverpool system. Liverpool squad, and it had the Liverpool players. Had it with like Ox and Naby involved in it too at the time, but it had a breakdown of the players, and we could say easily that you're a young player if you're up to, let's say, 22, 23 maybe, right? And then you're probably in like that mid-prime range if you're from like the 23 to 28, and then you're probably towards that established veteran age of 28 to plus 30. And when you look at the Liverpool squad, our squad is eight youngsters, 8 mid-prime, or it was like 8 to 9 mid-prime, however you want to look at Fab, because he's on the cusp of being in that other spot. And then you have 8 veteran senior players. That sounds like the perfect, balance when it comes to a team. And personally, I think that it is the perfect balance. You have some established veterans, some established leaders, you have established youth, upcoming youth, and you have those in their prime superstar style players that can basically all create what you need for them to create, which is a very balanced and a capable attack. So that's what I wanted to just add.
Big up for that, by the way, because I do agree, and big up Fozzie obviously for jumping in. Thank you for joining in this evening, my bro.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm late, guys.
No, don't be silly, bro. Don't be silly, man. Jump in whenever.
So the thing in that is, we already tried that with too many youngsters, and look where it got us. It got us 5th, and we had the worst season we had under Klopp. because he decided to sign a load of youngsters in Ramsey, Carvalho, and Harvey Elliott, and that's where it got us. So where we're looking right now is we're looking at 145 games plus under the belt of a player. You know, relatively close to the international team, if not an international, and possibly European football as well. It all seems to kind of be what we're scouting around, and hence why I picked out a couple of those players. I mean, there's many other players. I mean, to be honest, we need homegrown. Like, we really need homegrown, because if we're going to lose Sepp Vandenberg back on loan, that's a homegrown player gone. If Henderson goes, or Gomez, they're homegrown. Like, we are literally down to the bones of homegrown players. I think we've only got 5 homegrown players, and we've got 2 slots for non-homegrown players in the team. So the likes of Lavia, he's under 22, which means he can fit in that slot, and he's
19,
not breaking the quota.
Yeah.
But that's why I was looking at Dewsbury Hall. You know, Alex Scott looks like an absolutely perfect player. However, a lot of these players that we're linked with who are homegrown are really young, and we've already made that mistake. So I think we need to be looking around. I know you're not going to like it, G, but 23 plus. and I'll fire a couple of names off here, and you can look at them yourself, because they're all good players. They're all internationals. They've all played a lot.
Yeah.
Kadalugu, who plays for Fenerbahce, he's on the verge of a massive move to a big club. Turkish international. He's 24. Svanberg, who plays for Wolfsburg, he's a Swedish international. He plays DM and midfield. He's 25. Cracking player. Then you've got Som, who plays for Parma. He's a Swiss international. He's another destroyer, DM, midfielder. He's 24. And then you've got Leandro Barreiro, who's a Luxembourg international who plays for Mainz. So Klopp might know him quite well. He's a DM and a midfielder as well. These are all those type of players. And then obviously you've got Dewsbury Hall. You know, I mentioned Onana because he was
It's Dewsbury Hall DM though.
relatively nearby and doable. All DMs, all CMs and DMs.
I didn't know he was a DM. I thought it was more like forward-thinking midfielder.
Who's that? Sorry,
Dewsbury Hall. The Leicester player.
He played low in the midfield. He's a DM. He's a DM. He's a breaker upper. I mean, at the end of the day, like you know, he's gone down in the championship now, so he's at a good price, and he broke in quite late. He broke into the Leicester team when he was 22, so you know he's 24 now. So you know, I'm just looking around that area and not just like throwing loads of kids out. I mean, there's loads of kids. There's like Hayden Hackney, who we've been linked with. Yeah. He plays for. He's a Scottish international. He plays in midfield. Dylan Levitt. He's another player. He's a Welsh international. You know, there's loads and loads of players out there, but it's that type of age, how many games they played, whether they're homegrown. A lot of it really does fit into that sweet spot, and that's why we've got a director of football now. He can do it.
I don't know about the age, guys. I don't know about the age, though. I just want players that fit the system. That's what I want. I mean, that's what we bought before. That's how we won the championships. Players that fit the system. And from what I've seen of Lavia,
you mentioned with the S at the end. That meant plural.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Apologies. Thanks for correcting me. Yeah, it's all about that, guys. And I mean, age shouldn't be a factor. I mean, we've got mixture of ages, like K-Max said about the 23, 24-year-olds and all that stuff. But these two we bought, they are that age. You know what I mean? So, and we still got, you know, older ones there. We just have to buy the right player. I think we're just too short, 2 players short. a defender and a defensive midfielder. If we get those two, I think we'll be fine next season. And it's all about how you start in the season, isn't it? Like you have to at least win a few games, like 6-7 games, just to see where you're going to be ending up during the season as well. But yeah, I don't think we're too far from the players that we want. But yeah, listen, I'm on the Caicedo train as well, man. I really want that player. I've been saying it for a while, guys. Honestly, I've been saying it for a while. And the way you guys were talking about it before I come on, I'm thinking about it. Like, there's no other clubs going for him. Apart, you keep hearing Chelsea, but we don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Did you see the news today? Did you see the news today?
I'll come back from work.
No, they apparently Chelsea don't want to pay the fee. They don't want to pay that because Brighton, I think, are valuing him at around 100 million. Chelsea have said, they've not categorically said, but they don't want to. They're not going to pay. They don't want to pay that much, effectively. So if they can't get him for cheaper, you never know. You never ever know. So sorry,
they're trying to get Colwell.
Didn't Arsenal just make a
40 million bid for Colwell? By the way, Brighton.
Liverpool.
Brighton are going back in for Colwell with 40 million this time.
Yeah, but the problem with Brighton is because they're bidding too low. They're bidding way too low.
Yeah, it's not going to work, that one.
Why
wouldn't Chelsea want to hold on to him, K-Mac? Why wouldn't Chelsea want to hold on to him?
If Brighton are bidding for Colwell, have Chelsea even bid for Caicedo?
No, they haven't actually bid. They haven't actually.
I don't think they did,
They haven't actually. I think with Chelsea, if you're speaking about Caicedo, again, he's someone that I would love, and just quickly, even the players that you just mentioned there, K-Mac. When I look at when I'm looking at some of those players, age-wise, they might be all right and stuff like that. But I think they're the type of players, more or less all of them. They're not bad players, but they're the type of players that we should or would have signed when we hadn't won anything and we weren't that kind of team, when we were still back down there in that position of, man, we need this type of guy because he's going to help us get to the Gini Wijnaldums, the players like that who are not at that level yet, but they with the team and stuff like that, they can help us get to that point. So when I look at some of those players and stuff like that, again, they're not bad. There's not many bad players out there unless you're talking about someone playing in National League in comparison to the to the Premier League. But if we're just talking about players playing for Liverpool, I think that's where sometimes I'm like, when I look at, say, for example, a Caicedo, I'm taking Caicedo over probably every single name that we've even over Tchouaméni, because I look at him and I think to myself, bloody hell, you're talking about a guy, in this last 18 months alone has had probably the biggest impact on Brighton. He's probably their main reason for them being in the position that they're currently in, which is playing Europa League football.
Arsenal bid 80 million on Caicedo, and he'd only played for 6 months. Do you know that?
You know what's weird? Like what people say, guys. Like, he's only played there for 1 season and a half. Like, he hasn't proven himself. What are you like? You could see talent when you watch talent. Or am I seeing it a different way, man? I've been in the game for so long. I can see this guy is a great player, and he's got the potential to even be better under a good manager. If you know what I mean, guys. So I don't know why people saying like he's only 1 season in the Premier League, he has to prove himself. Nah, he could still get better in a different team, in my opinion. I'll see the player. I'll see what he could do. He could pass, he could run, he could shoot. He does everything that you need in a midfielder. So what's this 1 season thing everybody talks about? I don't understand.
The only reservations I've got about Caicedo is whether he can do it without McAllister. But if we signed him, he's got McAllister.
Well, that's what I wanted to add.
It's guaranteed.
You spoke of like how influential he was to Brighton, but let's be honest. One of the biggest, brightest, contributors to that Brighton squad was our first acquisition this summer. So
alongside
he makes a difference. He was the captain of that team. We were talking about captains and how many leaders we have on the squad. He was the captain of that squad, so it represents the fact that he does have not only ability, but he has the ability to, get players like your Caicedos and the like to be on the same page, know that, you know, to orchestrate how they have to move and do whatever they need to do on the field, which is very important.
I mean,
Sometimes
I would say when it comes to this DM stuff, let's see what Klopp is going to do. This will tell us if he's going to be making some changes in his tactics. Because if he brings another player which is identical to Fab, then it's going to tell me that it's more of the same with better players, right? With players with better legs. So, Bajcetic, trust me, Bajcetic is the same player as Fab, just younger. He can pass, he can dribble, and he can shoot. That's the only thing I think he has better on Fab. And he's going to grow. He's still young, 19. He's going to at least have that growth spur where he's going to get maybe 2 or 3 more inches.
Yeah.
But we need him. We need some.
I love Fabinho. I'm not here to discredit Fabinho. There's a few people that said that Fabinho had a bad season in the quad season when we tried to go for the quad. I thought he was fantastic, to be fair. I thought like when Salah and Mane went to the African nations, I thought he stepped up. I think he scored a few goals along the way as well. So I don't think he was that bad that season. It's just last season.
He had a penalty goal too.
Didn't
he score a penalty for us?
Yeah, he scored goals even without penalties. He even scored open play goals. But the thing is with Fabinho, if you don't have the right surroundings with him, he's not going to perform. Like I think at one stage that is the problem. I mean, so now you're getting these players, he might perform even better. But it's good to have these young players that we're talking about who can eventually take over, learn under him. If you know what I mean, if we get one of those players this season. So I know they're too young, K-Mac, but they can, if Fabinho is still going to be there, they can learn in the next couple of years off him and then take over that position, and we continue the success, and then we could just sign players the way these owners sign them if they stay in, if you know what I mean, because they don't want to spend money, but sign young players. Then you could teach them how we play, and then they could take over these older players as we go along. You know what I mean, so we could do things like that. That's how I see it anyway.
There's another player as well which I didn't mention. Sorry. Go on, you go first.
Oh no, I was just going to ask G a question. In the sense of, I was just going to ask G a question in the sense of, so when it comes to team chemistry, or not chemistry, team makeup, let's call it. Okay, how many midfielders are you looking for? How many defenders are you looking for? How many attackers are you looking for this squad to have in your perfect chemistry of players? Because I know everyone keeps saying midfielder. Eventually, you can't play with a team of all midfielders, obviously. You know, yeah. So how many midfielders and how many defenders and how many attackers? Obviously, we're going to have 3 keepers. How many on a 25-man squad? That makes it down. So you take the 25, you make it into, that makes it 22. But out of the 22 players, how many of them are going to be defenders, attackers, and midfielders for your perfect scenario?
I think obviously it all depends on the formation that you play. So as an example, okay, you know, I'll take in terms of numbers wise, I'll think of it in a second, but if I take a team like Inter Milan like Inter Milan, who play with 3 at the back, like they've been notorious, or Juventus, that's a better team. Juventus play with 3 at the back. They might not need 2 left backs. They might just need 6 centre backs. As an example, I don't know what their actual makeup is, but they might not need that because of the type of players that they and the formation that they play. So when I'm looking at Liverpool, it really just depends on what Klopp is trying to do. I think what he would need is maybe about, if I'm being honest, it's difficult because we get injuries like no man's business, and that kind of tips it up. But let's just say if we didn't get those kind of injuries, difficult.
Yeah, like but you're the sporting director, and you're talking with Klopp, and he's like, I need this amount, I need this kind, I need, let's say, 8 midfielders. So he's got to make sure that he has 8 midfielders on that squad. You know, is that what you're doing? Like, as in for Liverpool, again, that's what I would ask the whole panel this question too. But I think that really constitutes.
I would say 2 of those players. I would say, well, you know, forget even if I just like looked at it just as play. Like, I just want to, if I said like this is the amount of this I want. So figure it out yourself in terms of who stays, who goes. I'll probably say you need about at least 5 centre backs. I would probably say purely if you're going to go with if this is me talking, if we play with the 3 at the back. So you need about 5 centre backs, and you're going to need at least 1 or 2 of those to be versatile in a sense of they can play either right centre back and a centre back or left centre back and centre back position. Midfield, yeah, you probably would need about 8. And again, with the midfield, I'm talking 8. This is just me thinking in my Football Manager head. Again, that's not real. If I'm thinking of it like that, my 8 is always comprised of you've got young players, you've got like your youngster. So in this case, it would be Bajcetic, where he's not really going to play like that, but he's the guy I want to keep around the squad, you know, to learn off, say, a Fabinho as an example in there. Then obviously you've got your mid-range age. So that would have been McAllister. I think he's 24, 25, something 24, like that. And then so I'll probably say about 8. Players like Thiago and stuff like that, I'll be getting rid of because I'll be like, well, you're now past that threshold. Purely, you know what? Maybe not him actually. Jordan Henderson, because of his age and his ability in the squad. I'll be the thing is, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I have to look at it logically and think to myself, well, you're not good enough to play for Liverpool Football Club, even as a squad player. You're just not good enough. Like we shouldn't be having players of that level within the team. I don't see Manchester City with
he has
one
to contribute
player.
basically. Like, he's to contribute in nothing. If
he has to contribute in some way effectively. It can't just be he's the captain. He's been here 100 years, so he won us this. No, thank you. But we gotta go. I'd rather keep Thiago in that situation because he can actually at this age still be effective. So again, I'll probably look at it from like, I'd probably say about 8, and then strikers again. It then got that 5. 13. How many players you got left after that? That's 9 more players. So really, realistically, then you can kind of chop it up. To be honest with you, because then you can say, I need about 2 wingers for the left, 2 wingers for the right, and 2 strikers. What's that? 2, 4, 6. So that's 6 more players I would need, which leaves me with what? 19 with 3 more. 3 more. You can then choose how you then distribute that. So then that's like a pick. I would then be like, maybe I get another defender in. Maybe I get potentially another forward in, but he'd have to be super young, like in terms of he's not really ready to play, but he's good enough where I know his development will get there. And then I'll decide about the last one in terms of just what I need within the squad. And that's probably going to come down to like an injury or something like that. But more often than not, I always go into seasons with less than 25 players anyway, because I'm only using
23, something like that.
Yeah, I usually have like 23 anyway. And then I get players from the reserve team if I need to fill in gaps and stuff like that. But I just feel we don't even use that. We seem to use 14
the same players. That's it.
And then when the 14 are done, that's it. Sorry,
what you mentioned there about Henderson is really interesting because he's going to be a problem because you're talking about a player that's not good enough to play for Liverpool, but he's a player that will have to play for Liverpool because he's in the squad. And that's the issue. He will have to play. Like, he will have to play games, and he will probably have to play 80% of the games because he's at Liverpool. And that's a big issue. Like, with Thiago, I don't really think we really need to worry about him because he's probably going to be injured for like 50% of the time. So it's not really an issue.
If not all of it.
But the Henderson piece is an issue because, if he's at the club, he's going to play. And the thing about Fabinho as well, that's the first time Klopp's ever dropped Fabinho was last year. Like, even if he has bad games, he never gets dropped. It was last year when it really did happen. Like, he got rid of him and he put Stefan in. So it's a case of, what does the manager do next season? Does he go with the old guard and then go, oh God, this is going to be a disaster, and then benches them? Like, and the problem with the manager last year is he's really not good at using 5 subs. Like, we have 5 subs for a reason, but he has his like 60 minutes, and then he's got Milner. Obviously, he hasn't got Milner now. So
by the way, he asked for these 5 subs. He was the one.
Who's that Milner going to be? Like, you know what I mean? Who is that Milner going to be next year? That's the one.
But this is the thing, Paul. We can't put it on the manager. I put it on the players. If you want to play, show the manager. If
I agree.
Anderson is
I agree.
if
Yeah,
Anderson,
100%.
you see how Anderson is showing his muscles up on Twitter. If he shows up,
Yeah.
if he shows,
We saw that. We saw.
yeah, if he shows
That's
up,
because Salah did it first. Like he got jealous.
hey, if he doesn't, if Dom or McAllister does not
Yeah.
show up, like, don't show up, the manager is using the old guard. You have to take him out. You can't just sit there and be like, oh, because I spent 60 million on him, so he has to play. No, we got way too many tournaments to play.
Yeah.
We are into 4 different things, and we need leaders. We can't just throw kids
Everybody
against
away
Europa.
like that. Yeah.
But we've always been that.
Especially.
We've always had 4 tournaments. We've always had 4. Why does everyone look at this season so like? That's one thing I wanted to ask. Why does everyone look at this season so differently? We've always had 4 tournaments.
I'll answer
every year.
I'll answer for it. When we had those tournaments, all the players were seasoned, ready to go. They knew what to do. Klopp didn't have to do much. Look at City. City doesn't have a full squad. They are old and injury prone, but they were so good and consistent, it didn't matter. And they were able to take a treble.
They didn't really have an injury squad though. Like who's injured in City squad? Foden.
They have
majority of the time he's on the bench.
Laporte.
Anyway.
I mean, that was a really random
Laporte
injury.
was
Like, he got an appendicitis.
Kyle Walker.
Oh yeah, it's not really yeah. But again, sorry.
When you have a seasoned players, a lot of time is just plug in and play. I mean, who's that young kid they brought in for Kyle Walker?
Lewis, is it Lewis? Something?
Yeah, Lewis.
Yeah, Rico Lewis.
Exactly. So right now, Liverpool, we are not at the City level because we got new players that we have to embed them. It will take them a year or 2 to be at the level that we were having 4 or 5 competitions at once. Until we get there, you have to be very strategic, and the players also have to show the manager. We can't just buy brand new cars and say, "Oh, I bought a Ferrari; it's going to win every race." Come on.
That's true. It's all about competition for players, isn't it, as well, guys?
Exactly.
To motivate players. So, in order for you to perform at the highest level, you need your players on the threat, and this can happen next season. Hopefully, we get the right players in.
We saw. Look at Ox and Cater. They got very comfortable, and look what happened to them.
Yep.
These players have to feel the fire.
Okay, to caveat, I'm going to play devil's advocate then. When we were good, we had no competition for places.
Because the players were the right age, weren't they? They were at that age. They were hungry to win titles. I mean, so and that's what came out saying. The age was what 26, 25, 24, 26. It was like that. So they were at that age. They have to perform on a consistent basis to get those titles. They had no time for slipping up. Now, you know what I mean, it's a different story. And obviously, we're going to go the younger route, but we're going to hopefully keep the older players that will like drive them through the season. And then we'll see where we end up at the end.
So then, I'm just playing devil's advocate. Why then change the formula in terms of, I'm not talking about the way we play. I'm just talking about changing the formula in terms of, we've never had like, when we were good, like when we won the Premier League, Champions League, or whatever, we never had like younger players. Like we didn't have like an 18-year-old in the team, starting kind of. Trent was probably the youngest player that we had in the team at that time. Everybody else, again, like as you mentioned, was of that kind of, right age and things like that. And we then also, bar James Milner, we didn't have like too many players who were old. Do you get like we literally had basically enough, like all of our players in terms of the starting 11 were all players in that right age. So why is it now we're then looking in trying this kind of new way where we're saying, let's just get in all of these young players? And again, not to say that I don't want people to think I don't think these guys are good, because I do think they're good. I think they've got potential, but I just think that we're doing what I thought Liverpool were going to do, which is you overcompensate. Because the team was one of the oldest teams in the Premier League last season, you've now decided that we need to start getting some younger players. So now that then means that you're getting too many young players, and too many young players can only get you so far. We saw what happened with Arsenal. The difference with an Arsenal, I think, which is why I think they will be good next season, their young players are actually of top quality, like real top quality players. Whereas our youngsters at this moment, like at this current moment, we don't know what the season holds. But at this moment, they're not at that level. No way. You think any of our youngsters are close to what Saka is, to what Martinelli is, to what Ødegaard? Well, Ødegaard's already that young. You know what I mean? Like these players. Like, they're nowhere near that kind of level.
Yeah.
Whatever excuse we're going to bring up, whatever we're going to say about game time, whatever, they're just not at that level. So they can afford to have players who are that young because they're at that level. So when we're trying to do it with players with a lesser level, is it not going to take you forever to get to that point? Because you're trying to put in too many.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think so because the spine is still there,
so.
isn't it? The spine is still there. Like if you look at the back line, the goalkeeper and all those, the spine is still there. It's just like mixing them up in the right way. And now you added 2 quality players who are at the right age, which is McAllister and Szoboszlai. That can push us even further. But what we forget, guys, is the front line we got as well. That front line, once they click, is frightening. You know what I mean? You got Salah, you got Diaz, you got Jota, you got Gakpo, you got all these players, and you got Nunes as well. So you got all these players that could change games even if we're struggling. If you know what I mean. So it looks like listen, it's all mixture. That's what I like about this team. It's going to be mixed with youth as well as experience. As long as the spine of the team is there, we could push through the season, in my opinion. Sorry,
and that's the reason. And that's the reason why we could this whole sell Thiago, sell. Wasn't a handle, it's all ludicrous stuff. You have to. This is oh my god.
Can I say something about? Sorry, Kwasi. Can I say something about?
After I'm gonna go through some questions, guys. Yeah, keep your questions coming in. I've started them.
Sorry, Kwasi. I apologize, brother. You said about Arsenal, the way they pushed through last season. Don't you guys think Liverpool dropping off that much motivated Arsenal to go up that high last season? Because you know we're forgetting Man City at the same time last season they were transitioning. They were like trying to get these players through, like Haaland, you know, all these new players they have, and they were sending a lot of players at the same time. That's why they took a step back majority of the season, and then Arsenal took over. So sometimes that Leicester kind of season can happen because you know other teams have to reboot. If you know what I mean, guys. So that's what I think. Agree. That's why Arsenal have. You know, sometimes a team is in the right place at the right time. And that season, Arsenal were the team that was at the right place at the right time, like Leicester was, like Blackburn was, you know, things like that in the past as well. So that's how I think Arsenal came through. If there was 2 teams coming at them, would they still be at the top? If Liverpool was still at their, you know, peak prime, I mean,
can I answer that? So
sorry,
Arsenal.
No, you're good. I like it.
Do you remember Newcastle?
Yeah.
Remember the Newcastle from the 90s?
From the 90s. Oh, yeah.
Arsenal reminded me of them. Like, they had a couple of really good players that caught fire, but they just didn't have the squad to sustain it, which is exactly what happened to Newcastle. They had a couple of injuries. I think Philip Albert got injured and Ginola and, you know, and they dropped off. And he ended up coming third.
I remember.
What I wanted to say, though, is what you mentioned before, G, was it kind of resonates with me a lot because it's not a coincidence that we were so dominant in Europe and the league when we had a squad that were all around the same age group.
Of course.
And we didn't have a load of kids and we didn't have a load of old players that had gone past their peak. That reminds me of Man City. It reminds me of how Man City do things.
It's the same
it's
way.
only recently that Man City have started to bring youngsters in. Like the Foden.
Look how they're not integral.
The Rico
they don't
Lewis,
need Foden or Rico Lewis
Cole
or
Palmers.
Cole Palmer. They don't really, you know what I mean?
And the Alvarez's and, you know, and the Haaland's now. Like, but Haaland doesn't feel like a young player, let's be honest.
He doesn't, man. He
doesn't play like a young player. So it's not a coincidence that we had such dominance because off the bench we also had older players, but they weren't older players, but you had like the Shaqiri's and
players who have been there before,
and Lallana's, and you got those type of players that have got a lot of experience and can just come in and do a job. I just feel that we've gone to a certain stage where we lost those players that you could rely on off the bench. And they were kids and they couldn't impact the game. Like there were some games where over the last year where you had all your attackers on the pitch. You had no one to come off the bench to influence a game in attack. So you were taking off your threat to bring something else on, which is what he was doing. He was taking off a threatening player to bring on a Milner or a Gomez or a Matip or a whoever. I don't know who he brought on, to be honest. But that's where I'm kind of getting at. And now, with more squad, hopefully we get more squad, then you can bring on like a Jota or a McAllister or a Jones. You know what I mean? We have a type of play that we can bring off the bench, which can impact the game, and that's going to really put us well for next season. But defense is the big worry for me.
It's the big worry.
That's another show.
No, I mean, the thing is, remember, we are on a rebuild, right? But the good thing about Liverpool's rebuild is the spine is still there. So it's not going to be taking that long. If McAllister and Dom take off running, it doesn't matter who you bring it off the bench. So the thing that we have to do is, one, we also have a good coach.
100%.
He is stubborn, but he's very good.
Yeah.
And we have to give him that. And we have to also look at, like I said, City, last year when we were competing with City, towards the end, they were falling off like flies. If we had one more week, they would have lost the season. You see what I mean? So, but now they didn't have that much injuries like they did last year. But their team was just a strong core that it didn't matter. It was just like a car. You sit in the car, you start driving. Right? This year, Liverpool has to do a little bit of rebuild through the middle. The front is the same front. The back, same back. It's just the middle. So if the middle get running, we will cause a lot of problems. Arsenal, the thing with Arsenal is the one thing with Arsenal is I don't believe on Arsenal until I see them do the same thing this year. Then it become consistent.
Exactly.
Can we stop the Arsenal
because it's 1 year. When we did it 1 year, everybody said, "Oh, you guys are lucky. You made it to 4th place." The second year, we went straight to Champions League final. So if they do it again, then I say, okay, now they're a threat.
Can we stop the Arteta love train so much? I mean, jeez, it's just like I don't understand.
I wasn't
for a coach.
None of us are on it.
For a coach that has gone through the love and hate relationship he's gone with his own fans, but now when referenced, it seems like, oh well, Arsenal's doing this or Arsenal's doing that. Last time I looked, Arsenal didn't win anything last year, did they?
No, they didn't.
For a club for fans that get on ridicule us for talking about placing second and giving like accolades as if we did anything before placing second. Did they do anything other than place second last year? Did they do anything in the sense of by having 84 points? You realize by having 84 points, you'd have to go back to when Leicester.
Man United win the league in that,
Leicester City won in 2015-16, and then you have to go, and if you want to go even further back, it's like you're saying, you'd have to go back to Manchester United,
and Arsenal, of course,
But also on that point thing, all I will say is that when it comes to the points thing, sometimes I don't really like that debate because it's all context and relevant to the time.
100% right.
So it's difficult to say as an example. What Liverpool fans, obviously, we always say, oh, we got 90 whatever points and we didn't win the league and whatnot. And obviously, if you looked at the points, you're like, oh my goodness, in other seasons, it only took them 70 whatever. But in other seasons, would we have been good enough to beat a Manchester United of the treble-winning Manchester United? Probably not. I mean, they probably were still better than us, even in our fantastic seasons.
I think those competitions those days, everybody was beating everybody, wasn't it? It wasn't like one team dominating, so it's different.
Yeah, and again, but even now, we're doing the same thing now, which is it's only two teams. It's only Manchester City, Liverpool, it was Manchester United and Arsenal. So
aren't you getting dangerously close? And this is again to all my Gooners. Aren't you dangerously close to insulting their invincibles then? Because then, like, your argument is that, oh, well, then, like, one, the Invincibles had, I don't know how, a boatload of draws from that match.
14 draws,
right? Yeah. So, I mean, like, obviously, the competition wasn't so super stellar, or was it stellar? I don't, it's up to your own interpretation, and like, okay, well, then that accomplishment isn't as spectacular as people make it out to be, but it is a spectacular accomplishment. I give it credit for what they've done, which is go invincible. But all the same,
But that's a bigger achievement than getting 97 points, though.
I don't necessarily.
We
I
got
don't
K-Mac.
believe
Oh,
that.
sorry, guys. All right, but it's good.
Take care, bro.
Thank you, K-Mac, for
I don't know.
jumping in.
See you, K-Mac. Good to see you, man.
I'm not trying to take the wheel and steer us too far off on the tangent, but let's get real. Like, is 97 points nearly breaking the 100-point, like becoming centurions, like Manchester City? Isn't that a major accomplishment? Yes, I believe it is. No.
What you just said is an accomplishment, though.
Right. Oh.
Where's he going?
No. That's the Invincibles hitting you. That's the Invincibles.
Just came in and no, I think just before, because I want to get into some of the questions and guys, big up everyone obviously in the chat as it is. And thank you guys for rocking with us. But the achievement is getting the 100 points and winning. Getting 97 points and losing is just getting 97 points and losing. There's no achievement within that. So this is where, and again, you're right in what you're saying about Arsenal. Of course, they came second ultimately, but when you look at their progression that they've had, and when you look at the
what it was
progression,
the season before, yeah, finishing fifth,
eighth, fifth, second progression. That's all you're seeing. There's no digression. It's just progression. What you're seeing with Liverpool is, I think it was fourth, second, first, second. Third. No, third. We came third the season after. Second, fifth. There's no progression. It's just it's like this. There isn't a real progression. It's really up and it's not even up and down. I would say it's just kind of, it's almost stayed at a level, but you've definitely not progressed. If you have done anything, you've regressed. But I won't even go as far as that. You've just kind of stayed here, and you've just been kind of there, obviously, barring last season where you dropped down completely. But with them, you're seeing that. So to then get to that point total from coming fifth to then second, you're like, right, facing off against the same team that we have faced off against and only beaten them to the title once. Again, when you look at the context for them would be like, well, that's pretty cool kind of thing. Again, that's looking at their context. And that's why I always say the points thing, I don't really like looking at that, because ultimately you came second. That's it. That's all I can really care about. You came second.
Well, yeah, that's cool. I mean, like, if you're gonna say it like that, that's cool. But then if you're gonna give it that same energy, when we speak about this Arteta team of last year, you gotta say, hey, they had the league in their hands pretty much the entire season, and they ended up bottling it at the end to
lack of experience in it, bro. It's lack of experience, man.
What's that?
It's lack of experience. It's lack of experience, bro. If they had that winning formula, they would have been all right, but they just don't have the experience. That was the issue. Sorry, Quasi, you was going to say something. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I kind of feel disrespected when people say, well, it was just everybody else was crap and it was just Liverpool and City. When we're in Europe, Liverpool and City was still dominating.
Still top, yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't just Liverpool. It was just we were that good. The rest of you guys were not needed to catch up.
That's
And the rest of you guys have not. Okay, I'll give you respect. You catch up a little bit. You haven't catch up to the levels of Liverpool and City. City dropped points to win the league. City dropped points to win the league.
Yeah.
Arsenal did not even get close to where Liverpool was to come second. Has the league got a little bit more difficult? Correct. Yes, it has. But look at Europe, where we were dominating in the league. We were very extremely competitive.
Yeah.
I think the list was what? Quarterfinals?
Yeah.
Quasi, to your point.
I think it was Atletico Madrid that game.
Atletico Madrid, that was it. Every other year is either we are in the finals or
semifinals. Well, that's exactly what I was trying to get across, is that not to cut you off.
But Arsenal just got here. We don't know what they're going to do next season.
No, but
what if they get semifinals next one?
Let's not get it twisted. Like, as in one, our Champions League victory was against the Spurs. I mean, like, obviously, during that era, it was an accomplishment for the Spurs to get to the final. Let's give them credit for that. Also,
we didn't beat a good team in the final.
Right, but I'm just saying, like,
it would be hard to get in there, though. It would be hard to get in there.
City did not beat a hard team to win the final.
I don't like Chelsea, but let's not dismiss the fact that Chelsea has had an exceptional run in the last 10, 12, 15. That Poch comment is somewhat relevant, but yet when we're talking about it, we're saying, oh, well, there's no one really competing other than Liverpool and City. No, well, in the Prem, yes, the only teams that are really pushing City for the last few years have been Liverpool. Okay, let's just be honest. But when it comes to actually performing in our tournaments and outside tournaments, I believe that a lot of Premier League teams signify why Premier League is so difficult and so advanced when it comes to a lot of their team progression on other tournaments that they play in.
Exactly. And then you have to look at Chelsea being crap and still beat Madrid to win the Champions League.
Yeah.
So that's where I get a little bit perturbed.
Nah, Chelsea were not that. Chelsea were not crap that season. Chelsea weren't like it's not the Chelsea of last season that you're talking about. The season when they won the Champions League, they weren't crap.
They were not that good. Tuchel
I'm not saying that they were that good, but they definitely weren't. They weren't the Chelsea of last season. If it was that Chelsea and they weren't, then I'll be like, well, okay, yeah, there's not much you can say. But that Chelsea was all right, very, very all right, very, very all right. Chelsea. They were literally trying to come up.
Quasi's kind of right with Chelsea. I think it was just a push of new system, new manager.
New system and new manager. That's what got them over there.
That's what actually got them through that Champions League.
They if he stayed throughout
the season,
but then we're being disingenuous. This is why we don't want to be disingenuous to Liverpool. But they were being disingenuous to Chelsea.
That's exactly the point.
They were before Tuchel. They were crap. They were actually with Lampard.
They were very crap before Tuchel got there.
I mean,
that was Lampard, right?
But they weren't crap under Lampard because he was the one who got them there. Like he was the reason why they were so good. Hence why everyone kept saying it was because of him that they won the Champions League because it was his team, it was his players. That was all him.
Didn't they come in like fourth?
They came fourth the year that Lampard took over. They came fourth with no signings, by the way, no signings. No signings allowed. They came
and then the following year they come in what?
I think they came.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. We have to be careful on that discrediting team because everybody is crap. So Liverpool, what are we supposed to do? Like Liverpool could have gone undefeated and still come in second to Chelsea. I mean second to City one year. What kind of league is that? We could have gone invisible and still
lost one game.
We lost one game. Exactly.
If we have drawn that game,
that was our best season.
Right. You talked about points and everything else. You said that you don't want to underscore points. I'm like, we lost one game in that season.
We could have drawn
one
that game
in that season.
Second.
We lost one game.
I don't want to hear that. Oh, that's bad.
Okay. And yet we're not going to value points.
But why are we valuing the points? This is what I'm saying. What we should be valuing is the fact that we lost one game.
Well, it represents the fact of a season where obviously if you only lost one game, you dominated a good, if not 99% of that season. You dominated except for that one game. And albeit, yes, it's disappointing and frustrating that we lost that, and that ended up being the reason why we lost the title. But at the same time, it shows the level of City that we had to go. Even us going and having one loss still did not get us a title. That's incredible. You cannot. If you go to any other season,
what did Arsenal do?
That's winning you a title. Period. No.
But Arsenal, this is the thing. You guys, I think you are giving Arsenal way too much.
No, I'm talking about Arsenal, not Arsenal from last season. Arsenal went unbeaten, and what did going unbeaten do for them? They won the league.
Yeah.
Right.
This is what I'm saying. Is like we're applauding something that's like it's good in terms of course. Look, to lose only one game.
But we are talking about Arsenal of last year.
Yeah. I'm not talking about the.
They didn't lose, but we were trying to compare Liverpool. We're trying to compare the Liverpool lost one game. I'm not comparing them to the Arsenal. I'm comparing them to the Arsenal who went unbeaten because that's where I'm trying to show you there is the difference.
They did what they needed to do to win. That one you can't debate that much.
Yeah, you can't debate that.
This is what I'm saying. That's an actual achievement.
Yeah.
To lose one game is good, but you didn't amount to anything. You still didn't win the league. So I don't get what the fanfare is about that.
No. The thing that I'm saying is we cannot discredit Liverpool and City and say everybody else was crap. It was just those two teams because those two teams were still dominating
both competitions. Yeah.
And the fact that.
So does that not support the argument it was only those two teams then? If they were dominating Europe, wouldn't that then?
No, you can't. No. But if you say Liverpool and City were the only dominant and Europe were crap, then it's your league that is crap.
But we were the only two teams dominating in both. So if we were the only two teams dominating in both, then it would only be us two. It would have made sense if it was 3 or 4 teams winning or dominating.
Right, but
at that
we
period.
got PSG. We got PSG that dominate their league every year, and they still can crack the final one time.
Yeah, that's PSG. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. If we have 2 teams that are doing well in Europe, it doesn't mean they were just the rest of the room. Yes.
Yeah.
Nobody else. Chelsea, Arsenal did very well last year. However, they fell short.
They did.
You see what I'm saying?
And
We can give them kudos.
Question too, by the way.
Yeah, we can give them kudos for jumping from 5th to 2nd, but you have to do it again for us to be.
Yeah,
no. If anybody who knows how to lift weight, if you say I'm gonna go for my max, if you lift your max one time, it doesn't count. You have to do it again to solidify it. So with the Arsenal fanfare, I think, yeah, give them their kudos, but let's see if they do it again this year. They do it again this year, they're for real.
And there's something here, yeah, it's true.
And now that they have Champions League too, I'm telling you, this thing is not as just giving them the hype and the vibe. Or, well, Liverpool didn't do this. Well, Arsenal been talking Liverpool, you as the bridesmaids all the time. Now is your chance to be the bride, and you fall short. Chelsea, you got a chance. Man U, you got a chance. Everybody making fun of Liverpool. All of you guys had a chance. And even at our worst, still, City say the team that they're scared of is not none of you guys. It's Liverpool.
Yeah.
Even now they're saying that. Yeah,
that should tell you how much everything is.
And it goes back
to be fair, I agree with kind of like the premise of what you're saying, because I do agree. They have to do it, in terms of next season. Well, to be honest, it's not even that they have to win next season, because there is only one team in the league that has to win. Everybody else is more challenging to win.
Let's let them hold that weight.
No, but they don't.
Let them hold that weight in the sense of, if you're talking about, okay, so you talked about the progression of how they went from 8th to 8th to 5th to 2nd. Well, if they go to 3rd or 4th or 6th, doesn't sound like you're going any more progression. Sounds like you're.
What if you come second again? What if you come second again? What if you come second again?
Then you stagnated, and you're not going anywhere.
But again, this is why I keep taking I was just about to say that, Quasi. It's like the same thing I said on the football terrace. Is what you need to understand is there's only one team in this entire league, literally one team, who can actually come out at the beginning of a season and say, no, we have to win because we are that good and that much better than everybody else. No one else in this Premier League can have that kind of
our fan base.
No. You're mixing the two. This is what I'm saying. You're mixing the two. I'm not saying you can't have ambitions. Of course, everyone. Okay, so everyone else can have the ambition, yes, to win the league, of course, and you should have the ambition. And I want everyone to have that ambition. But what I'm just talking about in terms of when they're sitting there in the board meetings or whatever, and they're talking to the manager and they're having this conversation, it is only one team who will have that conversation with their manager to say, no, we're here, we have to win. Whereas everybody else, it's a case of let's just challenge, let's see where that actually gets us purely because of the team that we're coming up against. So if Arsenal go next season and finish 2nd or even 3rd or even 4th, but win a trophy or 2, I wouldn't even look at it as that they've kind of dropped off or anything like that, because I'll be like, well, the reality is unless Chelsea win the league or Tottenham win, unless if something like that happens, then I'll be like, well, then you definitely, I guess, if they've been able to jump up in front of you, then of course that's when it becomes different. But if Man City win it again, that's it. It's Man City. I can't do anything about it.
I'm asking you, G.
4 in a row, mate.
Other than the FA Cup, what really has Arsenal won under Arteta?
No, nothing. The Community Shield. That's it.
Okay, so they've won the FA Cup and the Community Shield, and if anything, now they've gotten a 2nd place that they treat like it's a title. Okay, so I'm just saying that if we hold Arsenal, who has a historic and definitely a definitely glorious history, if we hold them to the same standards that we hold ourselves to, they have to win next year. If you're talking about ambition and
what standard? This is the bit I'm not really understanding. Like what?
Okay.
Why do they have to win? This is the bit I don't really understand.
Isn't it all
because
about
Liverpool didn't have to win.
Yeah.
Liverpool came into that season that we won the league we came into that season not thinking we're going to win. We came in there with the same mantra
But G,
of let's challenge
It's the
see
same
where that
reason why. It's the
But G-
same reason why, even though we did not get there, it's the same reason why Jurgen Klopp said, "Hey, book your tickets." You know, because
lucky I didn't.
there's a reason why he put that out there. I understand that we didn't accomplish it, but that's the mindset. Is that no, we're not going to settle for, oh, well, you know, next year we'll just kind of see where we end up going and this and that. No, if you have the league in your hands, like the same reason why when Milner talks about the Champions League and how when us losing it was a major like learning experience for everyone, to put that not only the you know, feelings of, oh, we didn't accomplish this, you know, hold that feel, you know, and understand what it feels like, but to also say to these players that, hey, you deserve to be here. This is what you need to accomplish. Not something like, oh, well, we should just be happy that we're here. No, this is what you need to accomplish. So, yeah.
No,
I'm sorry, you want to
look,
say something about the comment? Go ahead.
just before, because I know Quaz, I know you said you got to shoot. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I
get into
gotta
the
jump.
questions. But yeah, this
Okay.
comment is basically where what I always come down to is it, and I 100% agree with you. Nobody, when in the record, but no one's going to look at the context. No one's going to look and see that, you know, we got this or that. Like, I don't even know how many points Arsenal got in the
First place is
season
all
that
matters,
they
yeah.
went on. But yeah, it's just first place.
Well,
Cool,
nothing.
and they didn't lose, or Chelsea won the Champions League, or Liverpool won the Champions League, Liverpool won the league. I don't even know how many games we lost that season. I don't even care. We won the Premier League that season. The year we won the Champions League, I don't even care how many goals we scored, because guess what? We won the Champions League. So I'm not even. So it is just going to come down to the records don't really care. But of course, us as content creators, we're going to look at the behind it. Everything
That
is
context is done by talented
See you guys.
content
Big
creators
up
like
to you guys.
yourself.
Take care,
Bye
brother.
bye.
That's
Now,
the-
big up Quasi, man. Thank you for joining in for this evening, bro. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Bye bye.
But yeah, look, again, it is one of those kind of things, and football for me is a context game, because sometimes it's not always as simple as just being black and white and stuff like that. And some of the things that 12th man is saying is 100% true, because ultimately, when you go a season and you've only lost one game, and you don't win the league, of course, that in itself is very, 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 very good. But then ultimately, what then happens is when you've got a team who then wins it with over the 100 points or whatever, I'm not saying it gets erased. It won't get erased, because obviously we'll remember it, but the record books won't remember that. All it will remember is City got the 100 points that season.
Yep.
They won the Premier League. They did whatever. But us as fans, of course, because we're going to look at the team in terms of our progression and all these kind of different, various different things. And by the way, that's my favorite. That's actually my favorite season, of Jurgen Klopp era, is that 18-19 season, because I just felt that was a season where the team
We
just
gave it
looked so
everything. We gave it everything, yeah.
It's not even to give it everything. It was like we just looked so complete as a team, like the way we were playing, the players, the level.
Was
that
it
they were
millimeters?
playing.
They said millimeters or something like a city.
Millimeters. Like if we had won the league that season, I would have been like, and
the
listen,
Champions League as well. We won.
And the Champions League, like to have won the league, to go head to head with City. If we had won it, then and at this current moment in time, we've never seen Klopp go head to head with City and win a Premier League.
I think Liverpool in the
I've
Premier League
seen
era,
City.
mate. I think it's Liverpool in the Premier League era. Whenever we go head to head with someone, we don't win. We don't win. We have to be way clear, like we did that season. We won the league.
Exactly. Whereas I've seen City go head to head with us and win, so I know that they actually have it in them to really go head to head with anybody. And kind of go from there. But let me get into some of the questions, guys. Big up everybody in the damn
big
chat.
up everyone, man.
We started this debate talking about defensive midfielders, and we've ended it obviously here talking about Liverpool and the context. But this is what I love, man. This is what I wanted. This is what I wanted anyway. First question, I'll ask it to you both. This is from Ravi. He's saying, do we need, obviously talking about the defensive midfielder, start off with you, 12. Do we need a ball carrier in that midfield?
Okay, so I believe that having a ball carrier would be exceptional. That's why I thought we were going for Thuram. I know that a lot of the emphasis on pursuing him have kind of cooled off a little bit. At least that's what we're hearing. But again, going back to what everyone was speaking of earlier, who knows if that's going to be the case or not. But I would like to see a ball-carrying midfielder. I think, though, that one thing we overlook is Curtis Jones has an ability to be a ball-carrying midfielder. I think that he has definitely some really quality techniques when it comes technical ability when it comes to his dribbling. I also believe that getting Thiago back is going to make another difference. Getting a healthy Thiago back, maybe, and hopefully an available Thiago back. That's another ball dribbling, ball carrying, ability to do ball carrying, and also to be able to pass. So, do we desperately need it? No, but would it be a welcome addition? Absolutely.
No,
Yeah,
I
100%.
like that.
Yeah.
Fuzzy, chat to them.
Well, with
You agree
me,
with that?
yeah, 100%, bro. Like I've been like on the train of Casado for a while. Like I've been telling people, I'm trying to convince everyone, let's get on the train and try to get him. You know what I mean? I love Fabinho. You know what I mean? He's coming to the tail end of his career. He's probably got one season left. One, I mean, or, I don't know, one season I'll say. But if we have a younger version like of him with more mobility in that middle, that will like not be carried by the team, but he will like push the ball forward, pass to the players that's going to score the goals, win the ball back in important areas. If players get past him, he's going to go back and challenge for the ball, which Fabinho lacks, running back ability and all that stuff. Then I think we'll be better off as a team that's going to be challenging for titles. You know what I mean? That because you need that dynamic in that midfield, guys. You know what I mean? You got the technical ability of McAllister, then you got the running ability with the ball, plus the technical ability with the Dominic. I keep bloody forget his name, Dominic. And then you're going to have and then you got that defensive midfielder right in front of the defense. That's different to the two of them completely. So if you have the same type of players all the time, people are going to catch you out eventually, right or not? That's what happens. But if you have different kind of players in that midfield that give you something else, maybe we could open up these low block teams in the coming season and things like that. So yeah, we'd 100% need a defensive midfielder that's different to the ones we got at the club right now. But yeah, I wouldn't give up on Thiago just yet, guys. We lost Milner. Thiago's still there. Like if players are coming in and they see the likes of Thiago, Van Dijk, and Salah's and all these players in the team, it will attract more players to come to us. And not only that, under the tutelage of Thiago in that midfield, just for one season, like he could leave at the end of the season. I know, like everybody talks about his game time, but he could offer more than just game time off the pitch as well as on the pitch as well. So if you keep him on the bench, get him off the bench for certain games, then we'll probably be better off. At least we have that strong bench, you know what I mean, guys? Like we was talking about earlier, we have got too many kids on that bench. But at least he could be, I know like a lot of people don't like the managed game, but we could do that right now. We could do with these players that's coming in, we could do that 100%.
You both gave two very good political answers. I like that. You both content creators.
Am I? Oh, yeah. Thanks, bro.
Big up Richard Hutchinson. I'm going to say Hutchinson or Hutchinson. Do you guys think Liverpool are going to buy Lavia and Colwill for homegrown? 12, take it away.
I believe that if I believe Liverpool will do it? That is the $1 million question, as they say. But would I would start. Lavia will constitute towards being a homegrown when he turns 21. So he's not homegrown technically at the moment. Okay, yeah. Right? Yeah. But he doesn't count against it since he's under 21, which is cool. Okay. But Caldwell is, from the gate, he counts as a homegrown. And and that's something to really keep in mind. Do I think that they're going to go simply because they're homegrown? I don't think so. But I do think that that's definitely going to be a factor in the decision making when it comes to their next acquisition.
Fuzzy?
Oh, yeah. Well, Lavia, obviously, he's not going to be under the homegrown because he's 20. Was it 19? Sorry, 19. So he could come straight into the team and he'd be all right. Colwell, I like the homegrown with Colwell. I think Colwell can play left back, can't he? Instead of as well as centre back. So this is what you was asking for, G. Remember, you were saying like if we get a player like this, and to complement the centre backs, and he's got his own ability, obviously, to play in the team, and in the future he could probably take over the centre back positions of the Asian players as well. Do you think Liverpool going to buy Lavia? I don't think it's to do with the homegrown. I think it's to fit the system and the quality of the team. That's what I think. I don't think Klopp is going to be looking at things like that. And yeah, listen, I'll get both if I have to, but I don't know what we're going to get at this moment. It's like what you guys said in the beginning of the stream. You don't know what you're going to get with Liverpool. We're looking one way and we're going to go the other way.
Right.
Yeah, but listen, these two are quality players. But I've said, Lavia is more closer than actual Colwell. I don't think rivals sell to rivals, especially Chelsea and Liverpool. When was the last time we bought any Chelsea players? I mean, you got to think about things like that.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's what I think anyway. But yeah, I was
going to say real quick also you got to consider we do have 9 homegrown players that are going to be able to. 9 homegrown players that are going to be homegrown.
I don't think they're going to get rid of Gomez, 12 man.
Yeah. I don't think so either because of those reasons.
I'm looking at it. Yeah. I don't
because he can deputize right back, because he can. I'm not advocating for him playing center back, but because he has played center back for us, okay, and because he checks off that homegrown, and because also let's not overstate it, but or understate, I should say, but he knows the system, and obviously Klopp has some belief and trust in him when it comes to putting him into a position so that he can.
You know what it is, guys. Like I hated the way he played last season. I agree with you guys 100% on that stuff. But if you don't have a consistent like run in the team, how are you going to improve? You said that to me, G, before.
Right.
I remember, and James. How are you going to improve?
Curtis Jones is testament of that alone.
There you go. In the beginning of the season, everybody was trashing him. Northern Forest away and places like that.
Oh, yeah.
And then at the end of the season, everybody's like backing him. And get speed as well. I'm not a big Curtis Jones fan, but I can see he's improved. So with running the team, you don't know where you're gonna go, man. And keep getting in and out of the team. You guys play football. If you keep getting in and out of the team, you're not gonna have that consistency, because in your mind you're already messed up thinking you're not gonna play the next game. You know what I mean? So why am I gonna try in this game? So if you play football, you understand what I'm saying. Yeah. Just listen. He ain't gonna be going anywhere. He signed a new contract last season. I don't think that another centre back's gonna come in. I honestly don't. I want another centre back, but I don't think another centre back's coming. The closest one is that defensive midfielder, I think, just to be another understudy to Fabinho. That's about it, really.
No. Listen, look, I'm kind of with you. Look, I'm with both of you actually in terms of one, Fozzie. I don't think another one would probably come in. And 12 in terms of it's the $1 million question. We just don't know. Just wake up tomorrow and see what happens, and just take it from there. Big up Amirali, G in the panel. What do you guys think about the DM Mats Wafer from Bayernord? Have any of you guys watched him play?
Sorry, man.
No, I have not.
I wish I could watch him. But
no. I mean, he's decent, but again, he falls into that kind of category for me where it's like, if it would all depend on the fee. Like, I wouldn't go out to get him. I would more look at it like, I would just go out and sign Caicedo. Like, just go out and sign the DM that will go and get the job done. Like,
see every single time and watch. That's what.
But it's not. Forget even forget about the watching and that, because Max Wafer is actually a decent player.
I've seen Lucas Leiva before we bought him in YouTube. He looks like an incredible player until he joined Liverpool. He wasn't the same player I watched on YouTube.
Yeah,
that's what I worry about. I have to watch them thoroughly to understand how good these players are.
No, in terms of yourself, 100%. And I'm not. And by the way, Amirali, I'm not saying that you've done that. If you probably have actually watched him thoroughly, kind of thing. I think I've only seen him live twice this season. So
how do you think of him?
Again, like I said, to me, in terms of the 2 times I've seen him and every clips and all that kind of stuff, my own knowledge of it would just be, he just reminds me of one of those signings where you're just like, you didn't need to sign someone like him. You could have just gone out and signed the defensive midfielder. But I haven't done a scout report to really delve into it. So I'd have to do one to give us. I don't want to give a full.
Streets needed. The streets needed.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't want to give a full. I don't want to give like a full narrative.
The streets are calling.
That might be someone that I'll take a look at. We got Richard Hutchinson again. Why don't Liverpool get Gay and Lavia?
It's to do with the squad, innit? Klopp doesn't like to bombard the squad with a lot of players as well. Yeah, but
Mm.
I think you guys need to avoid the extra player. I think it's just going to be Lavia coming in. That's how I see it. I can't see
Do
two
you not
players
like
coming
Gay?
in.
You don't like him, Mark Gay?
I don't know much about him, bro. I don't know much about him. I mean, listen, you youngsters watch a lot of football. That was me 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Nowadays, I just limit my
This is
football.
what happens when you're not seeing anybody. You know, I'm
Yeah,
seeing
yeah.
football.
But I've
That's
seen
what I'm doing,
Lavia.
man.
I've seen Lavia, but the game, nah, I haven't seen him that much. I got skipped.
Top.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably spot on. I mean, a lot of these players nowadays, unless there's so many leagues, so many teams, it's so difficult always to engage in every match. So yes, I'm not, I don't do the deep dives as our host does, and appreciate it, and because someone's got to do it.
Got a lot of time.
Someone got to do the
Someone's got to do that heavy lifting.
True.
But what I can say too is that the point I brought up earlier, or the question I raised to G earlier, was something of why I'm asking, or why I think you have to keep it relevant in your mind. In that, look, you're going to have a 25-man squad, obviously, but one that constitutes how many homegrown players, constitutes how many non-homegrown players you can have. And that's great that you're putting this on the screen right now, because
don't worry, I started. Don't worry, that's what.
Yeah. Because this is what I mean by, if you start adding it up, there's really not that many more places left for players that are going to be, be able to be utilized. As in, you look at our midfield again. We have nine midfielders so far, and all those midfielders are players that could potentially either start or have relatively relevant minutes. Okay, and that includes Morton. Okay, who I know that Klopp is very high on. When it comes to our front line, we have 6 forwards basically in our front line. All right, already solidified players that all, you would say, 1, probably aren't going anywhere, and 2, all could start or get very, very big minutes.
Yeah,
and that includes another, like a Ben Doak or something like that, who could, if he ends up coming back and playing for us, could fill in spots, or fill in some type of spots, especially with the AFCONs and these other different tournaments that are going to bring open spots in our club. And again, when we talk about that defensive line, we have 9 players active, and that's not even including necessarily Vandenberg or Reece Williams, who have gone out on loan. So, and that includes, so that would be 11 in total. That's a lot of players. That's a lot of people that you just talked about. So you add them up: 9 attackers, 9 defenders, and 6 forwards. That's 24 players.
That's too much, man.
So now we're going to have to figure out, okay, who goes, who stays, or are we cool and we just bring in one big name, or we bring in one wonder kid, as we were talking about earlier? That's what I think people have to really start gauging the next couple of moves that we want to do, because we're not getting every person that we're linked to. We're just not. And considering that we're linked, right, and considering that we're linked with such a large pool of players, I don't see us picking up another 3-4 players and you going to their agent, or you going to the actual player and saying, yeah, you'll get playing time.
Yeah.
Where?
There's no space. Yeah, it's true.
It's just not place. Yeah, and again, to Alexander's point too, we have players coming back from injury. I mean, Gordon's going to eventually come back. Klopp was very high on Gordon.
Yeah.
You're going to have players that are going to be, that you're going to want to give some playing time, or at least incorporate. And Klopp has a tendency to find at least one youth player, and try to orchestrate them into the mold, or into the scheme of the system, and continue to evolve the system, evolve the team under those pretenses. So
this is why I think we're going to do well next season, mate. Like, he's got the Europa League, he's got the cups in it for these kids. Now, like you could like have, he's always asking for a rest in it. He's always asking for a rest for the like senior players. Now he's got the perfect opportunity to do that with the senior players, so he could play majority of the young kids in the Europa League and the cups as well. So yeah, I think this is what I'm saying. Like with us, like we have to challenge it. I mean, we have to find a way to break into that top 2 next season. In my opinion,
No,
there's no excuses.
we'll save that for another stream anyway. Big up Gagandeep, man. Big up to your damn self. Question to the panel: do we think Liverpool will cover all bases to fully prepare ourselves for the season ahead, or will we leave ourselves short? I guess once again. One word answer, guys. What do you think is going to happen? 12.
I think that we are doing an exceptional job of preparing ourselves for the future.
It's a tricky one to answer now as well, especially. So,
yeah, it is, because we don't even know what's coming in.
Sorry,
right, because you never know. We could make a major acquisition, and that acquisition, I mean, and before McAllister got on the squad, people were really questioning if we're going to spend any money this summer, and now with Dom joining the team, all of a sudden people are talking about we could win things, or, some of us, not all of us. but some of us are saying that we could win things this year. So yeah,
challenge. Hey,
I'm ambitious. I'm ambitious. The same ambition that we talk about. We hear ambition all the time. Well, if they're ambitious, or you want us, our players, to be ambitious, our team
Liverpool
to be ambitious,
Football Club, aren't we? Yeah.
Why can't I be ambitious to say, yeah, I want our club to win those titles, and I believe that they can. So I had that ambition. It's all the same.
Fozzie, could you please answer the question? Do you think we will leave ourselves short?
This is a common thing.
Guys, he's right, man. 12 is actually right. Yes, please be ambitious. But yeah, sorry, go. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a common occurrence with Liverpool, and we'll always play short when we need it the most at the end of the season, isn't it? But I'm hoping we've learned from that past mistakes and get the right players in it to compete next season. Do I think it's going to happen? Yes, I think there's 1 or 2 players coming in. I'm not losing any hope. I think we've learned from the past season that if we leave ourselves short, we're going to end up in the other side of the table. So now, like, we've got 2 powerful signings. I'm expecting like 1 or 2 coming in the next like a few weeks or so. Listen, we have to. We've got no choice if we want to compete with City next season and Arsenal. I know like 12 man doesn't believe in Arsenal, but I think they'll be there and thereabouts next season. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Bro.
We're gonna get a couple of players in. Yeah, 100%.
No, hey, listen, look, I'm just here to ask the question, man. I'll do. Yeah, this will be the last question. This will probably be the last question for the evening. No, there's actually another good one. Question for you guys: you can buy 2 more players, and 1 has to leave. Who's coming? Who's going?
I don't want to go first. I do not want to go first on that one.
Fozzie, if you don't.
2 players.
If you don't have it, yeah. I'll go first, and then you guys can.
Yeah, I can start another one. There you go.
Oh, go on.
I mean, they have to be actually like players that we're after, or are they players that, like,
realistic? No, like don't just say Mbappe, but we can.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, like I'm getting Junior and and I don't know.
If I had to pick, you can buy 2 more players and 1 has to leave. I would sign. If we're gonna just go off the premise that we have the money to sign these players, and if they're realistic, I would sign Caicedo and Pavard, and I would let Gomez go.
If it was me, I'll say probably. Obviously, we need another right back, don't we? Like a lot of people don't talk about him. They say he's injured a lot. I like that Lamptey at Brighton. I don't know why people don't like talk about him a lot, man.
Because he's never playing. He's always injured.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
That's the thing about like if you get him fit, he can be a threat on that right side as well.
At Liverpool, get him fit.
You never know, man.
Who comes to Liverpool and gets
miracles?
More
he's only young, isn't it? He's only young, bro. He could improve in it as age.
Right.
You could improve. Listen, I'm Caicedo trained, guys. I think them 2. And I don't know. with Liverpool. We've got too many players that's unwanted. You know what I mean? I'll get rid of maybe Matip because he's not gonna be fit throughout the season, and we're gonna play Konate majority of the season. Yeah, so get rid of him and get them two in. I think Lamptey and Caicedo. If we had that money, I think Liverpool could do smart business if they want to go for Caicedo. Probably, put a player and going the other way. Why don't Liverpool do that? Like if they're saying like 75 million is he worth something like that? If they're saying he's worth around
they're
that
gonna have to
much,
put like Harvey Elliott, like Brighton are not gonna.
Wouldn't you guys do that? Wouldn't you guys?
No, I'm more than happy with that. I'm saying that are Liverpool more than happy with that? We got to think realistically. That's Klopp's one of Klopp's favorite players.
I mean, if I'm desperate to get a player to get it for the reduced price, I'll do something like that. I mean, I don't think Harvey Elliott is ever gonna, be that player that we want him to be. I've got to be real with you guys. I mean, he's not the replacement for Salah. He's not going to be the replacement for anyone in that central midfield. So where we're going to have him? I mean, so let him go and learn somewhere else and get that player in. Yeah, but yeah, like them two, I'll say like Caicedo and Lamptey. That's what if I had the money.
If I had the money, or if I'm the sporting director and I'm looking at a player, I would say I'd bring in Vardiol. I like him. I like him as a quality player. Very good option. I like the fact that he's, that he has Liverpool. He has the badge in his heart type deal, and it would be like a dream signing for him. And if it means I'm bringing him in, then I most likely would allow for Nat Phillips to get some quality playing time on another squad or another team, because out of all the center backs that we have, he has the least versatility of all the center backs, I guess you could say. As in he's strictly pretty much a center back, and we're not obviously playing him at right back or left back or something like that. Okay. And if I was going to pick up another player, I would go for, and considering that they need to make some moves, they need to make some real moves, and his contract, the situation with his contract, which is in limbo, I would get Gavi as a midfielder for my team. We're talking about youth. We're talking about promise. We're talking about a player that has obviously incredible ability. I think that would be the two that I would try to go after. So I would say Gavi and Gvardiol would be the two that I would look at, and Nat would be the player that I would allow to leave.
Those are good options. I mean, I love Gavi. I think he's a absolutely top player. Second to last question. Question for you guys. What got I'll say that one actually to last. I'll say that one, so that'll be the last question.
No worries, bro.
We'll get to this one. What do the panel genuinely believe Klopp's aims for the season is, or is he just like, let's see? If I put it into short, I don't go too deep into it. I think his aims would be to. His aim would be to get into that top four, because I also think he's not dumb enough. Like he's smart enough to understand the situation that we're in at the moment. I also think he respects other teams quite a lot. So he'll see Arsenal as a threat. He'll see City as a threat. He'll know that we could be a threat. Man United, Newcastle, depending on whoever decides to have a good season out of the two of them. So I think he'll look at it as top four and then go from there, kind of thing. I think that's how he'll look at it. Fuzzy?
Mate, like I said to you in the past, mate, I think he's here to compete. I don't think he's here to compete for top four. That's something that he does regularly in the past. But no. I think the players he's buying right now, I think he wants to compete at the top, 100%, bro. This, like I said to you before, he's not that manager that's just come in through the door, guys. I mean, these kind of managers can skip one season and then challenge the next season. So that's what I'm expecting from him, and that's what I want from him. I'm not top four. It's not for me, man. If I know Klopp, especially like I said earlier, he has that spine of the team still there. I think he's gonna go for it again. I honestly think that.
So
yeah, I definitely believe that Klopp wants to win titles. I think every player and manager equally want to win titles. I mean, there's no one that really says, oh well, I just want to let's just hope and see what happens or whatever, and let the cards fall. No, you want to actually manifest your own destiny. But when it comes to what I believe his aims for the season are, it's just going to be, I'm sure this is going to get burned up in the chat. But I would like to see his aim be a club or a team that doesn't spend the majority of the season on in the medical room or in the rehab room. Like, guys, I would just like to see what we can do with a club that has some real, real luck behind them that they don't get. Because some of the injuries were really weird injuries. They weren't like, oh, you got them because you were taken out or you're in a bad injury in the sense of because of they were not Pickford, but as in on that level type thing, or what happened to Elliott, those kinds of injuries, or what happened to Curtis Jones with the eye poke and stuff like that. Those are just those aren't necessarily injuries where you expect or you can anticipate those kinds of injuries. And if we can keep these players healthy, I believe that his pursuit this year should be for a quad. I know it sounds crazy, but it should be, because you know why? He has the amount of games that we're going to be playing. We don't have the Saturday noon kickoffs. We don't have to worry about relying on first team players to have to get us over the line in the level of the Champions League. We can play different lineups. We can possibly see even a first squad and a second squad somewhat. If we do something on those lines, I believe that we can see us really achieve certain things because of our competition being,
limited
City
now,
or Arsenal or Newcastle or any of these other clubs, Chelsea, any of these other clubs that are going to be trying to compete with us in the League Cup, or the FA Cup. They do have, minus Chelsea, they will have those constraints. They will have to think about, hey, we're going to have to play, we're going to have to go to Real Madrid, or we're going to have to go, for the second leg, or we're going to have
and this is their first team, by the way, it's not like us, we could put a reserve team out to the Europa League or something like that.
Can't do it. They could barely do it. They could barely do it when they were in Europa. Okay. Let's just keep it 100. So do I expect them to do that? I've been saying, this is something I put on Twitter, and I'm also just give you the exclusive, but I believe that truthfully, the three out of the 4 teams, depending on the draw, 3 out of the 4 teams that are representing the Premier League could possibly be in Europa with us. So,
wow.
Meaning they won't make it out of
Newcastle probably is one of them.
I believe that. Newcastle will be their first time. We were talking about experience. Okay, you were saying about experience. And if anything, none of these teams they're getting involved in this next tier have experience.
And have they got the squad to do that?
Exactly.
That's what we've got to look at.
Yeah. And now it's going to be, do they have the squad to do it? Because they're going to be going against, most likely, clubs that have been in Champions League, okay, that have been there before, that have dealt with those types of situations. And now you're going to really get a chance to see, okay, what is their resolve to get through this? So,
spot on.
Oh, I like that, man. Listen, like I said, man, always have that kind of level of ambition, because without ambition in life, if we all just went through and was like, we'll just see, then you're not going to ever really be able to, as 12th Man said, be able to manifest your, almost your own destiny. So I like that, actually, that little saying. Just quickly, 1 minute, if you could sum this up, what got you guys obviously supporting Liverpool? I'll quickly start off. I'll be honest, I never actually liked Liverpool. My mum, she supported Liverpool, and then it just kind of went from there. And then the real reason is because of Michael Owen. First time I ever saw him play.
You guys are young.
Said, he's the guy. He's the guy, man. But yeah, guys, go on. We're gonna wrap it up there.
Go on, talk, man.
Okay. For myself, very similar. Growing up, my favorite player was Michael Owen.
Told you, man.
But
Baller.
also,
I hate you guys, by the way.
I know. But no, and also, you know what though? In choosing in America at least, there's very limited clubs that you're going to be able to see on television. At least during the 90s, especially, there was very few clubs that you could see on television. Liverpool were one of those teams, and also on top of that, it was during an era when Manchester United was such the top dog.
Dominant,
it was so big during that era. So it was one of those things where, one, I'm not a bandwagon fan. Two, I kind of despised Manchester United simply because they were so braggadocious and they were so cocky and they were just so like so if anything, Liverpool being their arch nemesis was the club that I gravitated towards. And the final, I think, in the most important concept of why I gravitated towards Liverpool, became a fan of the club, was because of the fan base. I believe that the fan
nothing
base,
like us, man. Nothing like us, man.
there's nothing like the fan base that and this is, to each their own for all the clubs, but for the unique thing that I found in this fan base was the inclusion, the positive reaction that you got once you were able to interact with other Reds fans and supporters. The kind of, you're talking about context. Yeah, those contexts of what the league was like, or what this club was like, what the history was like, and everything else was always graciously passed down to the new newbies, if you want to call them, or the new introduction of these supporters in the club. And I always thought about the one thing I loved about this club was that you felt like you're a part of a nation. You felt like this was like, this is Red Nation. This is like this family, atmosphere of it. And that was very unique, very, very unique for me. And it was intoxicating for me to believe that wherever I went, I had Reds. I had my fellow Reds as my supporter, as my own supporter, and and always had my back. And that's why I truly love the club, and that's why I've always been a Reds fan.
Nice one, bro. Oh, for me, I've always supported Liverpool, guys. I lived in a household of Liverpool fans. You know what I mean? In the 70s, my dad, my uncles loved Keegan, innit? Kevin Keegan. Like that was their favorite player.
So what you're saying is you were forced, right?
They were glory hunters, man. They were glory hunters. You know what I mean? So I was stuck. You know what I mean? I used to wear a Liverpool shirt when I was a little kid, so I was stuck with that. And
right.
Guys, I'll go way back with Liverpool, man. You met Anton Torf, man, innit?
Yeah, totally.
We've known each other since we was kids. Like we're 44 now. We know each other since we was like 9, 8. So with me, like all I remember is Liverpool. Since the 80s, and I never looked back really. I went through the roller coasters, 30 years waiting, everything. I mean, so that's my story. You know what I mean? I've always supported them. Believe it or not, that's how it is with me.
Fozzie, you had some good eating in the 80s, though. 70s too, but you had some real good eating in the 80s. So let's not get
my first player, I remember when I was a kid, it was Paul Walsh. Kenny Douglas was the best anyway, but Paul Walsh was about to take over Kenny, innit? And then in 87, Peter Beardsley came and drove Paul Walsh away, and Peter Beardsley was phenomenal in that player, and it was in that era. And then they had obviously John Aldridge and John Barnes. John Barnes was my guy, man. I loved John Barnes when I was a kid. I adored him, man. I adored that player, man. Yeah, that's how I go with Liverpool. I always supported them, and I still support them now. Only them though. I don't watch other football anymore. You know what I mean? When I was a kid, I could watch football all around the world. I watched even MLS when it first started in '96. When you used to do the penalty shootouts from the halfway line, you know what I mean?
Right.
And things like that.
I used to love those
draws.
penalties, man.
No draws, just win or lose. That's it. That's what it was.
I used to love those penalties, man. They're like my favorite penalty style. I actually wish they would bring that back. I wish they'd bring that back. I think it's more
really.
Yeah, I feel like it's a better spectacle to watch other than just kicking the ball from 12 yards. I'm just like, if you don't score, you're actually just shit. Because the reality is you slightly got more of a chance to score than anything else. Like, so when I see it, I'm like, this actually just looks more. Because you remember, it was time. It wasn't just you had 10 years to shoot. It was 10 I can't remember how long it was. It was like 10 seconds. Like, it was really, really short. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was like enough time for you to be able to kick the ball far enough to get in as close as
The
possible.
goalkeeper's coming at you as well.
Exactly. And this is what I'm
Oh
saying.
yeah.
Man.
Oh, you're talking about the early parts of MLS.
I was
Yeah,
there when
yeah,
it
like
started,
the
bro.
Yeah. I thought that was actually pretty cool, to be honest with you. That
It's
was
a
like
good
a really
concept,
that was a pretty cool little way of like and I know that a lot of people have different conceptions of
they say like they try to
keeping-
change our game and all that stuff.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
It was a good. Listen, you tried to do it your own way. It didn't work out, but it was entertaining. It was
very entertaining. I enjoyed. I remember those years. Yeah,
Channel
those were
5,
fun.
man. Bloody hell.
No, bro, listen, I like it, man. But guys, we've reached the end. It's been a good chat, man. I can't even lie. It's actually been a very, very good chat. Obviously, we spoke about, the defensive midfielders, the type of defensive midfielders, we think Liverpool kind of need. What we actually think Jurgen Klopp, is looking for, this season, moving forward and stuff like that. I think we're all kind of in agreement. He is kind of he himself, is looking at that kind of progressive type of midfielder in the middle of the park to potentially go alongside Trent. Obviously, we all have our midfielders that we might potentially want, and it's going to be a little bit different. But I guess the most important thing about all of this is that what we think actually doesn't matter. It's actually only Jurgen Klopp's,
You're looking one way, you're going the other way.
and this is my thing. So look, ultimately, guys, big up everybody in the damn chat, man. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Always rocking with me every single time. I'd like to thank my guests. I'm about to, guys, make sure you sub to their channels. Please sub to their channels. It is Fozzie's channel down below. It is in the chat, so you guys have no damn excuse. And make sure you sub to 12th Man's channel as well. Please, guys, don't be dickheads. Make sure you guys ain't bozos. So please make sure you obviously sub to these guys. Have you guys got anything coming up over the next couple of days, or let the people know?
The usual, just the transfers and speculations and all that stuff. For now, chat shows with all of you is coming soon.
Calm, I'm there.
Yep. For myself, I didn't want to have to do it, but apparently people are trying to push me into the role of Punisher. So I have a couple of shows that are going to be coming out, holding people accountable, and also because since I'm held accountable for my own statements, and also protecting some of the players that that
as you should,
standing up for some of our our stars and players such as Nunez or Hakpo and players that get criticized unfortunately so by a lot of our own fan base sometimes, but all the same, that's what I have coming up is that. And also hopefully to the chat too, maybe we should have a little football manager challenge or something like that.
Listen, Enz is and me and Enz have actually been, because I got my laptop, which is what I'm using currently, but because it's a work laptop, I can't really download it, so I'm just gonna have to go and actually buy a laptop, which is what I was actually avoiding. I didn't want to spend any money. I was trying to be a cheapskate about it. So I will go and get a laptop, guys. I mean, if you guys help me to get to 1,000 subs, we can get some super chats, and you could really
exactly, man.
This is what I'm saying. But no, listen, I don't care about any of that stuff. But
No. How about this? There's millions of supporters of Liverpool. There's hundreds of thousands of supporters in America, for instance, in Great Britain and everything else. There's even more. And considering the numbers of supporters that we have, for you to not have 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever, 50,000 subs
it's criminal, man.
Yeah, it's criminal. Because realistically, it doesn't take much for you to hit the subscribe. It doesn't take that much even for you to hit the likes, and share it possibly.
12 man, just look at the content he produces. Just
absolutely. Not
many people do that, man. Not many people.
For the amount of time and effort that you put into
people don't know how
breaking down numbers and the amount of time that you put into actually trying to create content so that we are more informed, that we have more and what I do, which is what I put as my mission statement was, hey, I want every Red supporter, all my Reds brethren, to have the weapons to shut down false narratives, shut down the BS that you hear from rivals, shut down these like agendas that people put out there as if they're facts. No, if anything, I want to bring out that kind of content, which Fozzy, which GTV, which Quasi does. You know, the list goes on. Whether it's Ends, whether it's Savage.
We've got to support each other, guys. We've got to support each other. 12,
yeah,
man.
we all have to
at the end of the day, like that's how I grew up with Liverpool fans in my era. Like we supported each other through. When I was on Facebook, I had this banter page, 85,000, just supporting each other. That's what it was. And there should not be no judgment with us. You know what I mean? We should be all there for each other no matter what. Because that's how Liverpool Football Club is based on. And this is what Bill Shankly is built. So this is what, 100%, man. Listen, get the 1,000, G, man. And you 12, man. Get them, man. Get them.
You have to get the burners out.
Listen,
you know?
Listen, just share the channels around, share everything around. You know what I mean? G, man, I'm telling you guys, the contents I see of this guy on a daily basis, I've never seen anyone do that. Help the guy out. 12, man, his knowledge about football coming all the way from the States, like that's amazing enough as it is. I mean, and he deserves everything as well, man. Just give everyone a subscription, man. Like 12 man said, it doesn't cost a thing. Just hit a button. That's it.
Yeah, it's all this.
Simple as that. Hit a button.
No, it's true. Listen, look. The thing is, you guys see us on all, like, everywhere. Wherever you see me and 12 on Enza show, or Savage, and you've seen us across everywhere, and we don't always agree. And I think that is the beauty within itself in terms of the fan base and how we are as content creators outside of outside of here, is that we love even having these conversations, because we love these kind of debates, because we know that ultimately we all have the exact same goal, which is we want Liverpool to be the best. However that gets done, I don't even think any of us actually care, because if it gets done, we're going to be replacing. As long as it kind of does. But to give you guys these kind of this kind of content and stuff like that, and as Fozzy said about 12, to have that kind of knowledge, take away the knowledge, actually, not even that, because knowledge is knowledge. It's to be that heavily invested when people might look at that and think, oh, but he lives all the way. Forget all of that, because as Fozzy has mentioned, Liverpool, the fan base, like there is no real fan, and I have to admit there isn't really fans like us. Whether you look at that positively or negatively, I just think we are quite unique in the way that we are, obviously, as Liverpool fans. So guys, please make sure you obviously smash that like button. Please make sure you go over to both of these guys' channel. Make sure you subscribe to their channel. I'm G. Thank you, 12. Thank you, Fozzy, and we are outie.